coming in from New York. Car has hit a pedestrians there. This is on the 45th Street in the Times Square. One person is believed to be dead, while 20 people are believed to be injured. The vehicle drove on to crowded pavements. The fire department says the collision took place at the 45th Street in Broadway. The driver is believed to be again in custody, according to a law enforcement source. Cops say it's not a terror attack. The car was out of control. Now, this is the breaking news, which is coming from New York City at a speeding car. You can see the visuals. You can see those visuals on your screen. Is believed to have crashed into pedestrians on a sidewalk in New York City's busy Times Square on Thursday, killing one person. More than 20 people believed to be injured. Police say the incident did not appear to be an act of terrorism. However, in the times we live in, this has already raised questions. Ritanshu is with us on the phone line. Ritanshu, what more can you tell us about this?
High drama that's going on in arguably one of the most iconic neighborhoods of New York City. We understand that a vehicle about an hour ago drove onto a crowded pavement in Times Square and went on for about almost 30 seconds, going by reports. Now, we understand that at least one person has been killed. That's what American media reports are telling us. The number of people injured varies from 13 by conservative accounts to almost more than 20 according to some people. 13 have been treated at the scene according to the New York Fire Department, Sanjeev. We also understand right now that while it's not been confirmed that it's a terror attack so far, in fact, local police have been telling the media person responded it's not a terror attack, but eyewitness accounts have also been saying, Sanjeev, that from the looks of it, it seemed that the driver was intent on causing quote-unquote maximum damage, which is why he plowed onto the pavement in full speed and went on till his car was stopped by the obstacles around. So it does seem to be an attack which was premeditated, but not yet a terror attack as of now.
Right, Ritash, just hold on. More details are coming in on various outlets of social media before we cut across to the live feed coming from Al Jazeera. The vehicle is seen to be a red Honda sedan, and there are many American networks which are saying that the driver has been taken. He's been restrained by the police. He's wearing a dark T-shirt, placed in a police car. People were believed to be running there at the spot. Let's now cut across to Al Jazeera and listen in to what's going on there.
These are the pictures coming to us from New York, and we can now speak to Patty Culhane, who joins us from Washington, D.C. And Patty, as Gabriel in New York was telling us, we have to be very careful in terms of how we treat something like this, and New York City police being very cautious. They've said that it's not linked to terrorism. There is still a great deal we don't know about the circumstances surrounding this.
Exactly, and I think it is important to remember that people are going to automatically jump to conclusions. They're going to think about the attacks that were used at trucks that ISIL claimed responsibility for in Stockholm, Nice, Berlin, and also the recent attack at Westminster in London. And it's New York City. So everyone always thinks if there's going to be a terrorist attack, it's going to be in New York City. We've seen past attempts involving Times Square where there was a gentleman who was arrested for having explosives or would-be explosives in his car in Times Square. It obviously, you would like to assume and jump to that conclusion that it's terrorism. That said, I cannot tell you how many times when I was in local news that I covered the stories of elderly people or people who had strokes or medical conditions. They'd simply pass out in the car and lose control and end up in buildings and playgrounds. It does happen pretty frequently. This is a country where pretty much everyone has cars. So we've seen those accidents in the past. We do not want to jump to conclusions. Obviously, here in Washington, they're going to be very worried about this. This is a very tenuous time when it comes to the American politics, a very divided country. So we don't know. We cannot assume, even though we've seen similar attacks, but those were using trucks. We've seen similar attacks. Again, remember, this is a country where everyone has a car. People have medical conditions in those cars, and they often lose control. So right now, we really don't know. What we do know is the fire department is tweeting out that there are 13 people injured on the scene. We believe one person's dead. Is that the driver? Again, we don't know. This is very much a breaking situation.
And taken apparently into custody. New York City police saying initially there does not appear to be any ties to terrorism. related to this. Nevertheless, as you mentioned, FBI are responding as they would in any situation such as this to gather as many details as possible. Now, this did happen in the heart of Manhattan in Times Square a little after 12 noon at lunch hour, so the streets were very full with tourists, as well as people exiting their office buildings, going out to get lunch, so the streets were very busy. It's important to note that just in the last couple years, New York City has installed steel bollards, which are steel plates or steel pylons all around the sidewalks in Times Square, specifically to stop cars from being able to drive up on the key sidewalks there. It'll be interesting to see how that affected this incident, but clearly events still unfolding in Times Square as most of the people that were injured have been transported to area hospitals, and we're going to try to get an update on how their condition is. But the headline from this so far, at least right now, New York City saying this does not appear to be terrorism related. Nevertheless, very scary moments here in New York City.
All right, Gabriel. Well, thank you very much, Gabriel Elizondo. And so, Gabriel, we're just looking now at pictures of the car, and as you say, it's mounted on its side on the steel bollard, which, as you say, were put in place precisely for this purpose, to offer some sort of protection in an event like this. And of course, when something like this happens, people do tend to assume the worst. Could you just give us a quick flavor of the reaction there to what's happened?
Yeah, as you can imagine, immediately after these incidents, you hear all sorts of different reports from eyewitnesses. And we did hear from some eyewitnesses that were saying that the car was maybe driving in the wrong direction. Some eyewitnesses suggesting that the car was intentionally trying to plow people over, which certainly raises alarm bells immediately. But these are some of the initial reactions, but it was just very much confusion and fear, as you can imagine. Particularly because where this took place, again, in the heart of Times Square, that's very much
and it would have been and as you say, it's a tourist area. There would have been a great many people there at the time, though worth mentioning that U.S. government officials have said there's no evidence to suggest it's linked to terrorism. More on this story and the rest of the day's top stories in a minute.
Across the globe.
So that, of course, was the unfortunate incident that has taken place in Times Square just a little while back, where reports are coming in that at least 20 people have been injured and at least one person has been confirmed as dead. Well, moving on.